Well, good morning, everyone. Pastor Corey Rowland here with Yorkshire First, Midvale, and Newport Global Methodist Church. Bring you a devotional today out of the book of Psalms and Psalm 84, verse 1. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of heaven's army. I long, yes, I faint with longing to enter to the courts of the Lord. With my whole body, being, and soul, I will shout joyfully to the living God. Even the sparrow finds a home, and the swallow builds her nests and raises her young at the place near your altar. O Lord of heaven's army, my King and my God, what joy for those who can live in your house, always singing your praises. You know, what a great verse to start your day with. And I love how the psalmist declares, you know, how lovely is your dwelling place. You know, if you have been in the presence of God, if you have been in his presence, whether in worship on Sunday or in your personal prayer, just through reading his word, you know, if you've tasted, if you've experienced his presence, there's nothing like it in all the earth. You know, the more that I pray, the more I read the Bible, the more I'm in church, the more I seek the presence of God, the more I want it, the more I desire it. And this is exactly what the psalmist is getting at. You know, in verse 2, there's a longing. I long, yes, I faint with longing to enter the courts of the Lord. I mean, that's where he wants to be with God, to dwell there. And he talks all about, you know, his whole being, and he talks about the sparrows and the swallows finding the home. And he says, you know, where they choose to find their home is close to the Lord. You know, have you set up your dwelling place close to the Lord? I think often of Abraham and Lot when in the Old Testament in Genesis, when they finally got too big to stay together, and Abraham told Lot to go to choose which way to go, that if he would go to the left, then Abraham would go to the right. If Lot wanted to go to the right, then Abraham would go to the left. And Lot chose to dwell near the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, which, of course, you know, that famous, the infamous city, really not famous, infamous city that God destroyed with fire due to all of their terrible, terrible sins. Most notably among them is their endorsement and their practice and their encouragement of homosexuality. And with that, them being so evil that God absolutely had to destroy them. But it's interesting to note that Lot chose to set his house up there, chose to raise his family close to there. You know, for Lot, you know, he wanted he wanted God. You know, it's not as if he was an atheist. It's not as if he totally abandoned God. He knew of Abraham's faith. He knew of Abraham's relationship with the Lord, and you know, there's parts of him that stayed close enough to God that he didn't go completely like a heathen. But he also chose to set up his dwelling place near the world. And I think so often of our own choices. You know, where are you choosing to make your dwelling place? Where are you choosing to set up your dwelling place? Is it near the world, or is it near the altar of God? You know, the psalmist here is saying the birds, the swallows, they want to set their place up near the altar of God. And, you know, as if the animal kingdom, they know what's good. They know what's the best place, and the best place is in the presence of God. And the psalmist declares, how joyful are those who can set their homes up. How joyful are those who can live in your house. And what do? They always are singing your praises. You know, do you desire to live in the house of the Lord? You know, it reminds me of what David said in Psalm 27, the one thing I desire, the thing I want more than anything else, is to dwell in the house of the Lord forever. You know, David wanted to set his home up, wanted to set his tent up in the house of the Lord. And this is exactly what the psalmist is talking about. The psalmist is saying there is great joy in the presence of God. And that's what he longs for. That's what he wants again and again. Because how lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord. And so choose to set up your tent close to the presence of God. Choose to set up your home, your dwelling place, close to the presence of God. Let the presence of God fill your home. Let the presence of God fill your life. And seek after that lovely, lovely presence, because I promise you there's nothing like it in all the world. You can try to find things elsewhere in the world. You can try to find satisfaction elsewhere in the world. But for me, nothing satisfies me like the presence of God. So I pray today that you know the loveliness of the presence of God, and I pray that you seek after that presence each and every day. Amen.